Okay, we're going to talk gas caps here for a little while, and basically I'm going to explain a little project that I've been working on, and basically what we're going to take and end up doing. As you know, your gas caps on your various vehicles, which might include an airplane, are generally made of a rubber compound here for the sealing, and they work just kind of like a thermostopper. You twist on the handle here and it squeezes on this, expands that, and that seals the tank. Probably the biggest issue, or the biggest issue, is simply this rubber aging, and you can't take and get to seal. You wind up taking and putting like a wrench on the handle to get it tight enough to seal, and still don't, because this here is just this rubber on this particular cap right here. It's off my aux tanks, and it's just about the diameter of wood, so it's pretty useless. Same thing happens on the tip tanks. I mean, this rubber has lost all its pliability, and what basically happened here was, in an attempt to get it tight enough, it actually broke the pin in the lever arm trying to get it tight enough to seal the tank. And at that, before I had it up to that tight, I could just reach there and just pull it out. It wasn't sealing the tank at all. On Comanche aircraft, they are non-vetted caps, and you really not only worry about fuel getting out, but you're losing your head pressure from your vents going into your tanks. And you know, whether that could cause a problem or not, it's one thing to consider, because if you have a leak, you know, you're losing air out of that. You're having air sucked out of that tank. All the while you're supposed to have an air inlet pressurizing the tank. So this can take and actually become a safety issue. So basically, you cannot take and really get these caps anymore, nor the pliable replacement for them. I suppose if you wanted to go to the work of taking and having these custom built, you could, but I think I found a much simpler way, and I can show you a finished cap right here. And basically what we do is we've got a series of discs in here, and we've got Viton grade O-rings which expand, so they basically function exactly the same as original equipment. They take, and it's an elastomer compound that you squeeze and expand to take and seal the tank. Functionality, they're exactly the same. So here's one cap that I already converted, and I'll go through the conversion process right now on an old cap. So basically what you'll find out is these are staked here. Somebody has taken a chisel and deformed the threads enough, and that's supposed to keep your cap from taking and getting unscrewed too far and falling into your tank. It doesn't work all that well. You can just take and thread it out. What I recommend that you actually do, if you do this conversion, is then drill a hole in here, put a cotter pin in it. So that's something that won't deform your threads, so you can take these things apart. And my system, all you need is new O-rings. You can build a cap up in a few dollars. In 10 minutes you can have your cap rejuvenated back to original condition. So first thing you need to do is you need to disassemble your old cap, and it's pretty easy. All you're going to do is unscrew it, and eventually it'll come out, and you'll find a lot of goodies in your old cap. Of course, here is your rubber that has lost all its pliability. It's got an expansion spring that's supposed to take and kind of push it out, you know, when it gets old and tired, and then they seal it with a washer and another rubber washer here on the top. So what we're going to do is just remove these components, and it's going to leave you with this T-bolt and this cover. And this is where basically you are repairing your gas cap. Okay, this is not a new item, we're just repairing it. So there's your T-bolt, there's your cover, there's your bottom plate. So we're going to set them aside right now. And the cap conversion program here has three things. It has a top, a middle, and a bottom part. And basically what you're going to do is you're going to start with the top part, and you'll see a recess in the top part here. What we're going to do is we're going to take a small 1/2 inch OD, 5/16 ID O-ring. We're going to place in that. Now what this does, it really takes kind of the place of this in the old cap. As you apply pressure down on this, this will seal between the bolt and the plate and prevent any fuel or air leaks into the system. So it does a lot like the old design, you know. In other words, we're just really fixing, you know, all of the deficiencies of the material that we're replacing in this and nothing more. The next thing that we're going to do is we're going to take one of these O-rings, the larger O-ring, we're going to seat it on this cap, and you'll notice that it's machined just so it'll help you retain it while you're doing your assembly. So you just take and it may take a little bit of rubbing or whatever, but once it's there, it's actually being retained. And we can just set that assembly aside. And the next assembly you have is the middle plate, and you'll notice it has two O-ring grooves on it. So when we assemble that, we take and put an O-ring on one side, we drop an O-ring on another side, and once again the O-rings are retained, and that's really not necessary other than it just makes assembly a lot easier. It's good engineering. So we slip that guy onto the shaft. It might take a little bit of turning here to get it all the way on. There we go. So you're almost to the end. We take one last O-ring and we're going to put it on this bottom thing. And notice the recess in here. This is designed to accommodate that plate, you know, the exact profile of it. So what we're doing is we're not really modifying any of the original equipment. We're making everything to fit with that for the job. And once again, like all our other assemblies, the O-ring is fitted in here and it's retained, and you slide that on, and last but not least, you thread on the original threaded bottom plate of the original fuel cap. And there you go. This will slip right into the tank, and the first thing you're going to notice is that it loads up, you know, pretty readily without nearly a whole lot of torque. But once you take and seal these, you'll feel the torque come up on it, and you'll know it's tight. So one other thing that you can do here, and I'll show you right now, is sometimes you might spin this bottom, and it's not doing it now, but you might spin this bottom plate, and if you want, it doesn't hurt anything at all. You can take another one of the same small O-rings that we sealed the top with, and you just stick it on here, and what it'll do is that we're not worried about it, you know, failing or holding a seal here. Really what its main job here is simply to take and load up and make sure that your nut plate here, the bottom plate, has drag to the last aluminum plate that we put on in our conversion assembly, and that will always make sure that as you come up and you come up tight, that O-ring will depress and help keep the assembly from spinning, I think. But that's really optional. yeah, I wouldn't worry about that. You know, it's like don't fix a problem until you have the problem. But that's basically what I've got here. If you were to use this in an aircraft application, of course you'd have to do the proper certification and paperwork with it. And there's several things that could possibly happen. It's possible that this can be considered by your ANPIA that this is a repair of the cap, and then of course he'll take responsibility for, you know, the parts and the assembly on it, but he's basically repairing the cap to the same functionality that it had with the original equipment. You could also take and go the route of a owner-produced part for your airplane, because these caps are no longer available. You know, it's valid that you could take and design one as a replacement for your aircraft and use it. And last but not least, and we're searching some information on that right now, is it's possible that we will get these caps PMA approved, so they'll actually be a full-blown PMA part replacement for your aircraft. Other applications, you know, in industrial equipment or whatever, I mean, you really don't need to do anything except put it together and install it. And that's the cap.